Can you guess where that is? Does anybody know already? This is a picture that's been around. It's in the calendars. This is the Spirit Lake Land Office. So again, Frederick Blackwell, when he decided to start the town, he formed a subsidiary company called the Spirit Lake Land Company. And this was their office. And they sold off the lots. And when they sold the lots off, they promised the people that they would have water and sewer. That was part of the deal, but it really was a mill town. And again, the lumber company supplied those things too. So, all right. Well, maybe I should tell you where it is if you don't know. If you were standing now at the west end of Main Street and looking down toward the highway, you would see that empty building from Joe's Hole. You would see the Gethsemane. You would see the Linger Longer. You would see the White Horse. And you would keep going, and you would come to what used to be Cheddar's Pharmacy and the bank, and this little guy's right next to it. You'll be able to see that later in the pictures. But there wasn't anything else there. And this is a sign that says Spirit Lake Land Company. So there you go. All right. So now we're going to show you another picture for you to guess where the building is. But look at this, okay? Get it in your mind. You got it? Okay. Now, do you know where that building is? Wonderful, because that's it. Yeah. All right. Onward home. So here you go. Here's the Spirit Lake Land Company again. Later, can you see it? Here's the bank. Here's the Crutches building. Again, this is an early picture of what was built around the land office. And it's very disorienting because there's a building here, which there's no building there now. And that will happen again. So I'm going to show you some more of this just so that you can, again, get it in your mind. But now we're looking west down Main Street. And you can see, again, here's the building, and here's where the building isn't. That's where the building isn't. But it will be.
And those trees still are, and that's different too, because
still are there, yeah.
most of the trees in town are about 100 years old. We just cut one down that gotten diseased, and it was right around 100 years old because they kind of bulldozed the whole town except for the edges.
Okay, so this is just a little closer up. Again, you see it right there next to Cheddar's or the bank or the physical therapy place or whatever you remember it as. But yeah. So. And then here you can see again more of this building. So there were trees and then another building here. All right. So this again would have been the view from that little building, looking to the west a little bit later. You can see these newer buildings here.
You know, that building that you're pointing to,
This one right here.
that was called the annex that my dad and uncle bought from, I don't know if it was Panhandle, but my dad had a guy tear it down, and then between Mark Crutch's building now, which used to be Charters,
Yeah.
there was A.P. Hagee's Barber Shop, was the smaller one.
Those will show up. So we'll see the barber pole
Okay,
coming.
yeah.
Yeah. So this was called the annex.
Yeah, it was a hotel that my dad rented out to, especially during World War II, naval people, our family and stuff, after or during the war and afterwards. And I can't remember, but sometime in the 50s, he had a guy named Lloyd Shaver tear it down because it was getting really unsafe.
Now it's the little park.
Yeah, and that's
Now it's
the park.
The little park is there now. All right, here we go. So, amazingly enough, the little building stayed there. It's right there. Can you see it? It's like, it's in there like, oh, I'm just a little tiny thing and these big guys around me. So, and then here's this building and this building, and they're not there anymore. I mean, believe it or not, there was a whole nother building that came after these guys. So here he is, and then he's afraid he's going to get squished, but it's actually these two buildings that go away. So it's a really good thing that the bank has stayed. The bank building has stayed, because otherwise we would be totally disoriented. So here we go. So this is a little closer. You can you actually see it?
Yeah.
You can see it? Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Okay. So this is, again, a little bit later now. And here's the barber pole we were just talking about. This is the barber pole in front of A.P. Hegge's barber shop, right?
That's Marvin's granddad.
Yeah, I talked about A.P. Hegge, yeah. So here's the bank, and here's the building, and now look at this building. It's a whole different big building. It's a whole different big building.
That's it. Is that the apartments?
Yeah, it becomes the apartments. It
Yeah, and
becomes
there's a
the
cafe down on the bottom.
on the bottom, all right. It's McMahon, or McMahon, is how you pronounce that, Brad? Maybe in 1 minute. So, but yeah, that looks like a little restaurant for sure down there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then later on, this became the Spirit Lake Apartments, and this building burned in 1973. And we have newspaper pictures of that. And then now you know that's all that vacant. Used to be there was a nice big chunk of concrete sitting there, but
Yeah.
I don't know, they don't appreciate art. So all right, so yeah, that's again looking down toward the highway. Again, these buildings we don't have any, those buildings are gone. Yeah. All right, a little bit closer, still in there, still tucked in there. All right, and this is the picture when it's gone. It's gone. Yeah, it's gone. Yeah. And this, again, now says Spirit Lake Hotel here. If you went from the McMahon to the Spirit Lake Hotel, and then to the Spirit Lake Apartments. Yeah. And the flagpole has appeared. The flagpole, which has disappeared again. But when we moved to town, the flagpole was there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so it's gone from where you found out it was, and now it's where it is today, right down there. But it was hidden by this building that's gone now. So when we, well, let's see. Oh, I'm gonna do this one. So, okay, this is a little bit more close up. This building, this little bright spot is Sondahl Pottery eventually. We don't know why there's a bright spot there, but we want to be a bright spot. But this was Kiblin's.
Kiblin's, and then
Zippers.
it was red and white grocery store, and the Kiblin's had it way back when, and then Zippers.
Yep, them Zippers had it.
Yeah.
And Pat Wickstrom, when she was 15, went to work at Kiblin's, and then also worked when it was Zippers.
You know, that might be something I meant to talk to Todd about that, but I don't know if he has any of the history, but the son was Mitch, and he had part of the duplex down at the lake where Todd was at, and I don't know if he's got any of the family history, but I think Joe Kiblin was the dad.
The dad. So Ole's talking about the Kiblins who had the grocery here. And then again, this is a familiar name. I love this Moose Hall. I just miss, anyway, great picture. But, yeah, the Kidlins had it, and Mitch Kidlin ran it. That's who Pat Wickstrom worked for. She remembers working for Mitch. And now Todd still comes to the lake meetings, and has a place down on the lake.
Yeah, he's on the board.
He's on the board, yeah, so yeah, these springs connect us to. So now I just thought you might like to see what the little house, the little land office might have seen after it moved, one winter. And, yeah. So that's the view from that end of the street. And this is across the street. So where the city parking lot is now was this building, the grocery store, Rivier's Grocery, and Rivier's daughter married Walter Lockling. And Walter Lockling got the store, and this is him right here. And this gentleman worked for him when he was young, only delivered groceries and did things. So this is the inside of that store. I couldn't help doing a little bit of context of our neighborhood. So we do have a wonderful picture of Walter Lockling outside the store, and with his staff. And Walter Lockling surveyed the town site. He was one of 4 surveyors. And then he married into the town, so to speak, by marrying the grocer's daughter, and then he became the grocer. So, so these pictures now were taken in 1978. We moved here in 1982, so these pictures are just 4 years before we came, and believe it or not, it's hard to tell what you're seeing. It took me a minute anyway, but this is Brickell Creek Coffee. And this is Hogan's Garage, which is currently being majorly transformed. And again, a long history in the Holman family. This is where retrofit is. This is the police office that's now all combined with City Hall. But the jail, this was the jail. And when Mark Miller comes to talk to us, I hope he'll tell the story about Smokey, who used to just come and sit on the step to wait for them to let him in, so he could sleep there. Yeah, he was a character of our town also. Again, the gas station, and then the annex is gone. These are the trees that we still have in the little park. And then here's Smart Crutches Mark there. So anyway, that's that side of the street. And then this is the other side of it, looking back down. So here's when we moved to town in 82, this was our post office right across kitty corner from the pottery. This building, I love this story. Well, I could talk about this building. Anyway, I won't though, but this is Aaron's Flowers. But it was moved back and renovated. So Aaron's Flowers has that big patio out in front now. But this building was bought by Rob Brewster, and he remodeled both of these 2 buildings back in the early 2000s. And so you, again, all right, sorry. Okay, so I just briefly couldn't resist because I'm on the Historical Preservation Commission, and we are, again, we have this new historic preservation plan now, and so these dotted lines are the historic district that's on the National Register. So we like to say it's 2 blocks of Main Street, but it's not really. It doesn't include the vacant part down there. Here's the bank, or Cheddar's right here is number 1, and then all these buildings, and then this is not in it, where it's Georgie's now, in the vacant lot. But then the Merc and the buildings. Again, this is where the little park is. Anyway, I just thought it would be good for you to be aware of the context. And then these pictures that I just showed you were taken when they applied for the historic registry. And you're gonna see more of them now, I'm just gonna run through them. But it ends at 3rd Street, neither the grocery store nor the little land office made it into the historic district. And that's just another view of it that's more, these are all marked, this one's marked an intrusion now. These are intrusions. I still don't know what those are exactly, but I have a feeling it's not nice. So, okay, so this is what happened in 1978. The Chamber of Commerce decided they were going to become a western town. And what you just saw as Reviere's Grocery, that's it. That was the building in the parking lot across the street from us. Very difficult to comprehend, but that's what happened. And a lot of our town is still covered up by that board and batten that went in. The Chamber of Commerce thought they were going to be an economic answer to becoming a western town. So anyway, again, this is looking down the other side of the street in 1978. This was Jean's Convenience Store. That store has been vacant the whole time. Again, just looking down, linger longer, a whole different look. So, but these pictures are all online, so I'm just going to run through them. That was the drugstore. That was the Old West Hardware. And that's the Merc, which was all boarded up. 1978.
There it is.
There it is. So when Brad and I were walking through town, my dad was at the doctor's here, and we were walking through town, and here's this little building sitting at the top of the hill, and there was a for sale sign in the window, but we didn't take any pictures of the for sale sign, but this was our new house in 1982. I've always loved it. I always say people, it's just like a child would draw in the first grade. Door, window, we're good. And then of course the chimney. So but that was it, and it was tucked behind. Again, Sippers, that's me and our baby. When we came here, he'd been born in October, and we came in January. We actually bought the house in January. On the back of this picture, I wrote, me and Forrest, our house. This is the back of the house. When we bought it, it had a lean-to built onto it by the previous owners. And we bought it from a man named Lee Pierce, whose parents had bought it. Paul and Eva Jorgensen's were their names. And they bought it just to come up and stay in while they visited Lee, who lived out on the cutoff. And apparently, and so they would come every summer and spend time living in this house. And it had been vacant for probably about 3 years when Lee sold it for his mother to us. And he told us that his dad had had a heart attack in the side yard and that they had to sell. And it was only much later that we learned from other people in town that Paul Jorgensen actually died in our side yard. And the tree was there for a really long time. High stump, but he was sawing that tree by hand. And that's the understanding that we have. But when we bought the house, on the front was still the J.B. Peterson insurance sign. So before the Jorgensens bought it, it had had different uses, but the longest resident, I believe, was J.B. Peterson Insurance, and he was also a public notary. And we've been told by people who remember him that he looked like Colonel Sanders, with a big white mustache and white hair. And then his wife, she's known for her salt and pepper collection, apparently, in town. So, and you can see here, here's the building that was our neighbor, and that's the it was when we moved in '82, it was the Panhandle Lumber. and it was owned by Mo Smith. And Mo Smith is a historical character in our town, famous for boxing.
Yeah, I remember going to the White Horse
Yeah,
and hearing about this
Mo Smith.
being a boxer.
They do leg wrestling too. There's a leg wrestling. Anyway, it's an interesting town.
Yeah.
But what I remember about Mo Smith, we came over, we're a young couple, we bought this little house. I call it a house because for us it was a house. We knew the place to live, right? So, and he said, now the people who had this house before, they kept it clean. Now, every morning, he would be out here sweeping, so we expect you to keep this place clean. I'm like, okay. So, apparently in Spirit Lake, you have to tell people to keep their places clean. Okay. So here it is again. Now you can see Sippers here, but when we bought, it was vacant. It was just a warehouse. It has its own history, which I'm not telling you today. But and then this is the long view. You can see down. We have Sippers kind of in front of us, and we're about to start a business. Yeah. Okay. Handmade pottery. It's coming up, folks. But here, the Missouri Mule is here. The Missouri Mule played a part in us coming to love Spirit Lake because when we were walking down Main Street, we ran into the Missouri Mule and had French fries and met some people who told us this was a great place to live. So, we were hidden by Sippers, which became a vacant warehouse, and then we were hidden by the city of Spirit Lake, who absolutely loved to plow all the snow from Main Street right up in front of our business. Welcome to Sondahl Pottery, if you can get here. But it melted, and we kept growing, and we survived in some ways through the patronage of some very kind people who kept buying pottery no matter what. So that was all good. And this sign, Sondahl Pottery sign, which we have back up again, well, it's like a Van Gogh or a really precious, famous painting. If you chipped all of what we painted off on there, you would find the J.B. Peterson sign. It's under there. It's historical.
I think it might say Spirit Lake Land Company underneath that. It's about the same shape.
Yeah, right. So we, again, in that last picture, you can see it's all flat here. After we came back in 2000 from being gone in the winters, we decided it was time to make it actually better accessible, and we raised it up, and now we don't have to go up steps to go in the front door. That was the goal there. So we had a little kiosk out in front because we were living in it. I won't tell stories about that either, about how we used to sleep in the front room and then move our beds. People could come in and buy pottery. And then eventually we did this really historically accurate architecture to cover up the building again. Oh no, not again. Poor little building. It is now, it doesn't hardly recognize itself. Like it feels like it has too much makeup or something. So, anyway, but we needed a place to sell pottery, right? So that's what happened. And then Brad built that. Oops, back up. And then it wasn't very long after we moved here. Again, I'm just throwing this in because it's a very interesting story. So Mo sold to Don and Lee Sargent, who ran the Panhandle Hardware, and then they sold all of the business interior, all of the hardware to Dave Esterly, who moved it to Old West. So then this building was abandoned, and it sat abandoned for a long time. One of our really powerful memories of it was a shootout that happened there, made it to the newspaper. I can still see the man standing up against the wall like this. shoot around the corner or what, but it was an interesting neighborhood. But we kept our side clean. So then it was burned in a practice burn. So I'm just gonna run through those pictures. That's another historic building lost again. But we have a parking lot. So that's the last picture of the Panhandle Hardware. And this is the last picture, I believe, of my presentation here. I had wanted to do a few more, but
I put another one on.
is there another one?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, again, I just wanted to say that from that corner, you can see a lot of things happen on Main Street. And so we have watched the 4th of July parade year after year happening there. And I had an old picture of the parade, like from 1908 or 10 or something, and thinking that the little land office sat down on the other end and watched that parade. Still watching the parades. There's a lot to celebrate. And this was,
That's not it from Main Street. I just thought it shows how crowded the modern parade is now. That's on one of the side streets even.
and that's it, folks.
Yep.
I did want to just indulge you in a couple more of the facts about it. We have some written history of our town, very little, but it says in here, this is written in 1941 by Chester Phillips, so a known person. So on October 29th, 1907, the Spirit Lake Land Company began grading Main Street. So from that picture there. Then in 1907, Henry Kretsch bought the first lot to be sold, and he built what's now Mrs. C's, or that's the Kretsch building. But he bought the first lot from that building. And then, believe it or not, in just 3 months, December 9th, the bank opened. The bank opened. Yeah. And maybe one thing you don't know, again, that is an actual brick and mortar building, but a lot of the buildings are concrete block that look like dressed stone, and they actually built a concrete block factory. The intention was to make this town look like it had been here a long time right away. So a prosperous business town. But anyway, in December, that bank was done, and you know what those people did? They moved out of that little building, the most wonderful little office you could ever have, and they moved into the bank. The Spirit Lake Land Company moved into the bank in just 3 months. I mean, so actually I have here 2 months, 6 days. I've written it down. But then the school moved in there, but they were only in there 1 week. But it says the real estate office moved from their own building into the bank building, and the school opened in the old office in charge of Mrs. Ethel House. Right? Mrs. Ethel House was in charge of that school for a week, and then they built a little school, apparently a log structure. That's where the big park is now. So again, as time went on, it became different things. Did A.P. Heggie ever use it for his barbershop, do you know?
No, I don't know.
Oh no, I think that was, anyway, there's definitely more research to be done. And now, how many people do we have in here? 1, 2, 3. Not quite enough people to take one person per the buildings that are in the historic district and do the history. But, yeah, so, that's it now. That's all. I'm letting you go.